The Oris. It's the Oris that's really doing it for me. This is entirely agreeable. It's not challenging in any way. Hey friends, welcome to You Do You. My name is Mark and I'm here back with another unboxing video of another Amouage. Myths. Chrysanthemum, Oris, Elemi, Rum, Vetiver, Rose, Leather, Labdanum, and Ash. So when it comes to Amouage boxes, you have to carefully lift this upper part just to make sure that you don't drop the bottle. Look how beautiful this color is. And on to the scent. This is the first fragrance that I have that has a note of chrysanthemum. This is better than chrysanthemums. It's there, that same feeling of freshness, of plump petals. If I had no idea what the notes are, I would have thought that the opening starts as pale flowers. It's because I wouldn't have known that it's chrysanthemums. Pale abstract flowers and chocolate. And I'm just now finding out that apparently Oris smells a bit like chocolate. I suppose it's because of the butter that's used in chocolate bars. So this is the difference between Oris and Iris. Good to know. As a response to just maybe the first 2 minutes, it's very calm. It's very, very calm. Right, this is just the first 4 minutes and I'm finding it very charming. It's a debonair scent. It's amazing because I do have a fragrance with Elemi, but I don't know if the Elemi hasn't appeared yet, but I'm not getting the Elemi that I get from Eau Sauvage Parfum. But I am getting a slight tinge of something citrus, and Elemi is known to have a citrus edge. Now I can smell the rose, and something slightly woody, which I think is the vetiver. There are 3 perfumers behind Myths Man from Amouage, and one of them is my current absolute favorite. I think she's a genius, and her name is Karine Visentin Spehner. She also did Fate Man, Overture Man, which I have yet to get. I'm in the process of getting Interlude Woman, she's the person behind that, and Memoir, which was my first Amouage. And along with Karine Visentin Spehner, there's Dorothée Piot and Danielle Visentin. This is entirely agreeable. It's not challenging in any way. It has the usual depth of Amouage, and the florals, absolutely gorgeous here. Alright guys, I'm gonna do a fuller take later because listen to this. A bit of a sniffle. So just first impressions. I've scanned through a number of Fragrantica reviews and no, there's no urinal cake going on here. None at all. Weirdly, I'm not getting any ash, so maybe there really is something wrong with my sense of smell tonight. This is indeed boozy, but it's not as boozy as Bentley Intense for Men. What this is reminding me of, and too bad I've sold that bottle off, is either Nuit d'Issey or Noir d'Argent of Issey Miyake. But I got rid of it because it was good only for the first 30 minutes. This just might be the fragrance that has that for a much longer duration. First impressions, it's not in any way challenging. It's almost, in fact, traditional. For what it's worth, it does smell expensive, but at the same time, it's almost nothing that I would have expected from the House of Amouage. The temperature register of it is warm, and so I think it's going to be for cooler temperatures. It smells very European and American. It smells safe. It's not challenging. Some people say that it's supposed to be smoky, and I'm not detecting any smoke. Alright, enough of the first impressions. I'm gonna go back when my sense of smell gets better. It's been a couple of days and I've been able to wear Amouage Myths Man for a number of days, and I've also done a side-by-side with a fragrance that it kind of reminded me of, which is Nuit d'Issey from Issey Miyake. After 2.5 hours, they do kind of smell similar, but similar, not the same. Definitely not the same, but similar in the sense that like there may be like second cousins or something like that. What makes them kind of similar is the leather and labdanum, which become at about 2.5 hours become really quite perceivable in both fragrances. But the main difference is that Nuit d'Issey, the personality of it it feels like a very closed space. Nuit d'Issey almost feels like an armor, kind of like defensive, and Nuit d'Issey is not an affable scent, so it feels closed. It doesn't feel claustrophobic, but the kind of seriousness that Nuit d'Issey has is kind of closed and shut in and almost antisocial in some ways, whereas in comparison, Myths Man is totally open and affable. I wouldn't say kind of like friendly, but Myths Man feels more like open space. It feels like a conservatory. You just feel how space opens up, and really the similarity is just because of the leather and labdanum, and I think one more. Really, that's just after 2.5 hours. Similar, but definitely not the same. Maybe I'd say 75%. At the same time, the occasions in which one would use Nuit d'Issey, I think, are the same as the occasions in which you would use Amouage myths. And that's all I want to say about the similarity between Nuit d'Issey and Amouage myths. And so back to this one. So I've worn Amouage myths at night, and I've also worn it during the daytime, and I find that I actually prefer to use it in the daytime. Among the fragrances from Amouage that I've tried, Myths Man seems to me the most designery. In the beginning, that was in fact a kind of disappointment because I was expecting something more challenging. Watching the reviews about like 4 years ago, I really was expecting something that was going to be terribly exciting and difficult to wear, and Myths Man is nothing like that at all. What's wonderful about it is that it truly is different. Although it did remind me of Nuit d'Issey or Noir Argent, still it's it's tellably niche. Like you could tell that the ingredients used in it are actually, it's not just the ingredients, but also it's how it was engineered and how well thought out the fragrance is, because Myths Man has the perfect strict economy of mythology itself. When Ovid tells those stories, there's no detail that you can take out. All the words that he uses to tell the story are exactly the words that are needed for the story to be effective. And that's like Myths Man, because there's no element in Myths Man that you could do away with. It's not like, oh, the leather should be amped up, or the chrysanthemum isn't doing as much as it could do, or etc. etc. Another way of putting it is that Myths Man is really perfect. It's a perfect composition, and that's what makes it a must-have in my book. Now, if you're looking for something very challenging, this is not going to be it. If you want something that is a very attractive scent, usually for dates, that's really my impression. And I think Myths Man is designed for dates, because if you compare it with other Amouage fragrances, I feel like this one is the one that's most easily attractive. The personality that it gives off is somebody who's kind of open to experience, but at the same time not terribly eager. It's a perfect balance of outward generosity and inward self-restraint, which makes it really, to me, a perfect date fragrance. You won't come off as overeager, and you won't come off as cold or aloof either. Some qualities that I want to note. Myths feels very feline to me, feline like cat-like, because it has a sense of playfulness, and I wouldn't say that it's aloof, but I think really that it's withdrawn. Withdrawn not in an offensive way, but in a kind of sexy way. Myths Man starts off with a very strong combination of orris, which is buttery, and chrysanthemums, which is a highly uncommon floral note. And for that opening alone, which lasts for like maybe 2.5 hours or even 3, the tenacity of the opening is really remarkable. That rare combination is reason enough to get Myths Man. After that, of course, it goes to the heart, and then the longer life of the fragrance, of course, is the base, and the base happens to be a really beautiful experience of leather and labdanum. It's really, really gorgeous. Of course, at that time, like after 4 hours, it hardly projects anymore, but at the same time, it is definitely perceivable and definitely attractive. So it's very rare, It's very unique. You won't smell this from any other person. And also, of course, notably, the ash comes out to me on my skin. The ashiness really becomes prominent and noticeable only after about 4 hours. Previous to 4 hours, it's mostly to me. This fragrance is really an experience of orris, chrysanthemums, leather, and labdanum. And after about 4 hours, when you get to the base, there is something in the base that is also in interlude. If some people say that it reminds them of interlude, they probably mean only after 4 hours, like when you get to the base. Until you get to the base of the fragrance, I don't think that the comparison makes sense. And even then, they're not. I wouldn't say that they're similar because the labdanum and the leather in Myths Man are the two notes that predominate and do determine the character of it. Myths Man reminds me of this actor whose name is Josh Lucas. If you look at the demeanor of that actor, he has a very almost placid body language, but when you zero in on his eyes, it's like the most imaginative things are happening inside his head. And that leads to a character in Myths Man that I find really attractive because it's like internally playful. Myths Man is playful, but the playfulness is not very obvious, and it's certainly not adolescent in any way. That is to say that it does remain interesting for the entire duration of its life, and that life is kind of long. Like the longevity of this is really good. Projection maybe just for 3 hours, or maybe just 2.5, or something like that. And the projection also is polite. It's not the kind of fragrance that would fill a room, that would enter a room before you do. Not at all. So it's still stylish. It's still sophisticated. And in terms of age, I think anybody 20, I'd say 28, 28 years old and above, or maybe even younger, maybe 25. Now, in terms of the price, is it worth the full retail price? If the price of the full 100 ml were $330, to me, is this worth it at full retail? I would say yes, because there's nothing else like it. This is niche of high order. You get an olfactory experience that you can't get at all from designer fragrances. In terms of quality, is it in fact 3 times better than the average designer fragrance? I'd say yes, because there's nothing harsh about Myths Man at all. The wonderful thing, of course, is that Myths Man is still available in discounters, and at discounter price, it is absolutely worth it. One last note. The first time you try Myths Man, you're probably going to think that I'm crazy to think that it's worth it, but give it 3 tries. So if you're gonna get a decant of Myths Man, make it 5 ml. Wear this thing 3 times before making up your mind about it. If I had relied on my first impressions, I would have been terribly disappointed. I would have liked it. I would have thought that yeah, it's good. But the beauty of it did not become perfectly clear to me until after 3 wearings. After 3 wearings, I've become addicted. Although I don't see myself as somebody who will buy a second bottle of it, I won't buy a backup because, again, it's for dates and I don't really date anymore. I just do hookups. Life has been so much better. Now, I'm not gonna get a backup bottle of Myths Man because I feel like it's really more of a date fragrance and I just don't do that anymore. So it doesn't make too much practical sense for me to get a second bottle. But it really is so good that I am kind of wearing it more often than I need to, just because it's good. The register of Myths Man is really sexual. Sexual, but not vulgar. Not vulgar like Eros. Sexy, but well-mannered. And definitely not desperate. It's very cool. Cool in the sense of not being over-eager. Cool in the sense of being relaxed in oneself. Cool in the sense of being smart and listening to others when people talk and actually thinking and processing what they had just said before opening your mouth to speak. It's very, very cool. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.